Welcome everyone to our last Future Ready Librarian webinar of 2020. We're so excited to be here today for our second annual virtual Future Ready Librarians Fireside Chat. And I'm so excited to welcome some really fun, guests onto the show. Let me just go full screen again. What has happened? Well, let's see. I'll fix that in a second. And my name is Shannon Mcclintock Miller. I am the district teacher librarian at Van Meter Community School in Iowa. I'm also one of the Future Ready Librarians spokespersons and an author, and I love to help others around the country. You can find me on Twitter at Shannon M. Miller, and I blog at the Library Voice, and I put my email there in case you have any questions or need anything afterwards too. And I'm excited today because I am going to be joined by three other amazing Future Ready librarians. And I'm first going to kick it over to my friend Kat. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Kat Tusaya. I'm a teacher librarian at Long Beach Unified School District, Lafayette Elementary School. It's a TK through 5, about 1,000 students. And I'm excited to be here today, Shannon. Thank you.
I'm so glad that you are. I can't wait to hear what you have to share. And next, another California librarian, Karen, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm Karen Firstbrook, and I'm a technology and library specialist at Spring Grove School in Hollister, California. We're a TK through 8th grade school, and we're actually hybrid right now. So we have our students come for 3 hours in the morning, and then another cohort comes in the afternoon for 3 hours. So if we were on full scale, we'd have about 750 students, but we don't have that many right now coming in 2 different times. So I'm just thrilled to be here and to be sharing with all of you.
Yeah, we're so happy that you are, and can't wait to hear how it's going for you this year. And last but not least, my dear friend and partner in crime, Mark Ray.
Well, thanks so much for letting me crash. My name is Mark Ray. I work with Shannon with Future Ready Librarians Initiative. I was a teacher librarian for 20 years at elementary, middle, and high schools, and I was also a district leader for about 7. And now I'm a free-range educator continuing to work with Future Ready, as well as a lot of other cool projects here in Washington State and across the country.
Yeah, we're so excited that you're here. And this picture, I love it. I just want to frame it and put it out at Christmas time, Mark. So it's good. Well, you can, if you have any questions, please post them on Future Ready Libs using that hashtag on Twitter or on Instagram. And just a reminder that there is a conversation going on all the time there that's really amazing. And we'll be sharing more about that and also about our Facebook page too at the end. But I wanted to share the link to our website just in case you have any questions as we're going, but we'll also share a few things, and you'll get these slides too afterwards in the resources, so you'll be able to get to the things that we talk about today. But in the last couple weeks, I've been working on this thing, the 25 days of digital tools and ideas from Future Ready Librarians. And it's been really great because we did a webinar a couple months ago, and we had just amazing guests on that shared just all kinds of digital tools and apps. And so we took it apart, and we've been sharing like one each day. And as I do this, I reflect a lot on the year, and I was writing last night and thinking today about this webinar and just all the great things that we have done. And so I'm really excited today just to not only talk about what we've done, but also to celebrate all the things that we did in 2020. And I think that if it's, things that when I'm at school and I talk to the teachers and they see things that I post, or some people even follow us on what we do on our Facebook page. And I couldn't be more proud of just the way that we have come together as a community and as friends. And so I'm really excited to hear the stories and conversations that we have today, and to share some things too about what it looks like at our school. And so we're going to have some main questions today and just kind of take turns discussing and having a conversation about 2020. And we're going to kick it off with this question: what has your year in the library look like? And we all know that it is a lot different this year. And a lot of the things too are the same, or we do things a little differently that we've always done. And so I'm not sure whose slide this is. Is it Karen or Kat's?
Yep, that's me.
Okay, go ahead, Karen.
Great. So for this year, a lot of my school year has been virtual. And one of the things I've tried to do is to be consistent with our students. They know me as their librarian. They know they can expect every time they come to the library to have a read aloud. And so our teachers in their classrooms, their virtual classrooms, invited me in weekly, just like a regular library time, where I would join in through Google Meet or Zoom and have read alouds, and oftentimes have activities to go with those read alouds. So you can see there, Ruby has a worry, such a great social emotional learning book. And we did a little science experiment virtually and talked about parts of that book, or I would do a directed draw. So I just absolutely loved having virtual classroom read alouds. And then I also was able to do some small group instruction in book clubs, where we would go through books. We utilized Flipgrid a ton in our book clubs. And those usually ranged anywhere from 3 to 8 students. We met twice a week, and it was great. And then, what would 2020 be without some technology integration and training? Because we all just jumped into the deep end.
That's right. And I look at these, well, number one, I love your little activities that you have. I'm sure the kids love them, but I think about like Flipgrid, like what an amazing tool through all of this. And, that's one that, what would we have done? A lot of the things that we did, what would we have done without it? And I think how it brought together our community and continues to, but so thankful. And it's all free, right? So that is a huge thing. Well, for me, when I first was told that, in March that we weren't going to go back to school, I just started thinking, like, how can I still keep getting, books into the kids' hands and into the teachers? And so our library looked like this, until the end of the year last year, and even throughout the summer, just putting books out on our front step and just being able, like you said, Karen, connecting to the kids virtually and reading and doing little activities, just anything we could to keep connected. And as we thought about, in the summertime, like what was it going to look like? That was a huge thing for me, and kind of, stressful and kind of a worry. But really, when we got into school, it was, back to business like we've always done it. And even though all of our kids are wearing masks and we're trying to be socially distanced, we've been in school since August. I think it was like August 11th. And so it looks pretty darn similar. Even that football player, my son in the middle, they went all the way to the state championship game. And so we're really lucky that we have been able to be in school. But I also, during this time, I think, and I know that for both of you too, and everyone listening, working on just that virtual sense of our library, it's always been virtual, but looks a lot more virtual, and building a place that our kids could go to that was interactive and interesting and fun, and also putting our makerspace online was a really big deal for our teachers to be able to continue to have access to this. And our teachers, they would say that their kids were wondering when they were going to get to come to the library. And so making sure that we get these things into their hands, if they're at school or at home. And also, as you talk about, like, having events and read alouds, one thing that we do each week is just put together this calendar. And a lot of these events are things that anyone can do. And so there's events through Skype in the Classroom, which is now part of Flipgrid, actually. And there's publishers, there's Kidlit TV, all kinds of places that are offering these great free events. And so we make sure that we have those so our virtual learners and our kids at school can join in too. And then the little virtual pop-in story times, a lot like you said, Karen, my library associate, she's been doing these, and Diana even dresses up and reads to the kids every day. And another thing, you know, when the library, we all count on like book fairs. And this was one thing that I heard from the kids when they came back. Well, Mrs. Miller, we didn't get to have a book fair in the spring. And so having our Follett Book E-Fair was a huge, huge hit, and just so much fun for them to be able to kind of feel like, even though it was all online, kind of feel like it was normal when they picked up their books. And so, you know, looking back, I was doing that today and looking back at just the last like 4.5, 5 months. And again, even though it looks a lot different, I think our library, we're doing a pretty good job of making it look pretty similar to what it has in the past. And I think that we're all doing such creative ideas. And Kat, we would love to hear what the library looks like for you.
Yes, well, I'm envious of back with a hybrid, as we are 100% virtual. We will be through March 1st. So our library, as in the story time and activity support for our students and our teachers, is working through Canvas right now. So Canvas and Zoom, which is fantastic because we're able to bring some asynchronous learning as well as our read alouds. I love connecting with teachingbooks.net and Britannica school resources right into the slides, that everything fits so seamlessly with the Canvas program to bring those resources to the students and the teachers.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Well, and that's another thing I'm just so thankful for is like Canvas and Google Classroom. And like we think about, you know, all these different tools that we use, and thank goodness we have them, because when we think about, you know, if we're virtual or even if we're blended or back face to face with our kids, you know, a lot of the things that we have set ourselves up with as librarians and as like technology integrationists and teachers, we're super, super lucky, because I think we are at a time where we were kind of ready to take on these challenges. Mark,
Shannon, I just wanted to add one.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I just want to share one thing is, you know, looking at what you've done with your website, I think this has been a great opportunity for librarians who honestly were the pioneers of the virtual space. With library websites and so on. It's been a great opportunity to look at those again and make them more interactive, more compelling, more engaging. So I think that's been a real success for this year with a lot of libraries.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's definitely, I know for me, like I finally took a lot of time and, you know, spent on that presence that we had online. And I know that that has really helped our kids too. The next thing is thinking about how we stayed connected with our students this year.
Well, again, for me, the bulk of the year was virtual, and I just can't, you know, tell you, you can never underestimate the power of a great read aloud, right? The best way for me to connect with our students is to see them either virtually or, now that we're hybrid, face to face, and share a story with them. Particularly in this hard year, our kids are feeling it. And so the power of a story to help them know they're not alone or to help them escape. I have just loved being able to connect with our students through that. And then also, just like Mark, you were talking about, right, beefing up our websites and having virtual libraries and choice boards. That has allowed me to still be in the lives of our students, even though I can't be with all of them at the same time. At least I can get great information and tools and activities out to our students utilizing that technology.
Yeah, I think that is something that is so important. And I love your choice board that you made around the holidays.
Yeah. And I want to say again, reiterate that free Flipgrid. So oftentimes when I would do an activity with our students, like if we read Chris Van Dusen's, Building a Robot, or How I Built a School, or right, we would create something at home and then the students would share it with me on Flipgrid. And I love being able to have that two-way conversation with our students. I just can't say enough. I think you're right, Shannon. Flipgrid really enabled us to connect and stay connected with our students.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's so important. Like when we just had Hour of Code, last week, and a big part of our code for us is all the books that we share and how we do it. And so that was a big, job that I did over the last month, was made sure that we had enough books so we could get them into the classrooms, because if they're in the classroom for a while, we have to bring them back to the library and quarantine them. And so putting them together, even like you did, just shared on your holiday one, in choice boards for our kids. And I teach in a preschool to 12th grade building. And so making sure that all of our kids had these resources. And when we right now, think about all of our holidays, and we have a big emphasis on culture within our building, and we want to make sure that we get these resources to our kids and open their eyes to these different opportunities and events. And so again, just like you said, like, thank goodness too, we have all these choice boards, and we're creative with how we're sharing things, because we're able to take those resources that we have, if it's an ebook or PebbleGo or a different database, and put them in there so the kids then can, interact with the resources that we have in a new and really interesting way, and get them engaged. And, I like to think about when we first started back, like, how were we going to share makerspace things, how we were going to share the technology that we had. And things like Merge, for example, like they made their cube into a paper cube that we could all print off. And so our kids are able to do that all. I actually have one here, and like this little paper cube, now all kids can have one if they're at school or if they're at home, to be able to use that. And that's something that's free for all of us to use. And also thinking, not just about how they're using those things, but how they can continue to bring that learning home with them if they're also learning with their families. And that's been a really huge thing for us too, to see that happen. So Kat, how about you?
So one thing that I'd like to say too is the beauty of Studio in Canvas, and being able for students to share what they've made with a short video clip, me being able to respond back to them within that Canvas Studio, and posting some read alouds as well. Since we're a large school, then we are virtual, and our time together is so much shorter than it would be when they're with us and in front of us. So just trying to really use the tools at hand with Canvas to bring our stories to our students when they can't be with us live in Zoom. So using that feature as well. And then this gets to the question of getting, how are you getting books into the hands of our students? And in Long Beach Unified, our leaders have worked really hard to help support us with curbside checkout. For my library on the second floor, we moved a good portion of our collection down near the auditorium to make a space for students to pick up where they have reserved books in Destiny, or to be able to choose if they're our youngest readers and haven't been able to do that. So getting books into the hands of our students is really important for us during this time. So there's an image of that. And we are so thankful to different foundations like the Molina Foundation, which donated to many Long Beach Unified School Districts books for students to keep and to come and get. So we utilize the time of our lunch pickups to offer a curbside checkout and after school.
Oh, that's awesome. It looks like they're very happy to get that. And how about you, Karen?
So we also are utilizing some curbside checkout, and now we can deliver direct to classrooms as well. And we really worked hard to promote that within our school community by having written instructions and video instructions. In fact, we went ahead and put a bookmark so every student has a one-on-one Chromebook, and we made sure that the bookmark to the library is right there in the bookmark bar. And when they land on our Destiny, Discover homepage, there's a video embedded so they know exactly how to log in, exactly how to search for books. We wanted to make it as simple as possible to get books into our students' hands. And then also book talking, right? They've got to know what we have. I mean, first of all, Destiny Discover has been a game changer for us because it's so visual for our students, but also book talking with Bunsey, book recommendations. I've made Bunsey boards and I've done Flipgrid videos just to let our students know, here's what we have and here's what I think you should be reading, because there's some awesome books that came out this year.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, love Bunsey too. I use that so many times, like through it. And it's just so nice, to be able to whip something up and share it so easily. And you mentioned like Destiny, and that was one thing for us that our Destiny like usage has like skyrocketed, because just like in this picture, when we opened our library, even though our library is open for our kids, it's not really open for them to come in anytime. They can come in about 10 minutes out of the week, and they are using Destiny to write down on these little slips of paper what they want, and then they come in and they find the book, and then we get it off the shelf for them. And so they're like shopping with their eyes and these little pieces of paper. But it's been so great, to use some things like that and some signage so they have little visual clues about how it is different. But it's really been going, really awesome having them come in and just setting up, right away some procedures with the kids, and they even helped us. And then with our high school, kind of like you said, Kat, bringing some books down and putting them in just a certain place. We have kind of a library lounge that our high school kids can come to in the common area, and then they can get the books, and it's self-checkout. And Diana, also my library associate, does an amazing job of just organizing the books and getting them to the kids. And even though it looks different, it's been working pretty good getting our books into their hands. One other thing that we did with our books that were in Destiny is I made Destiny flicks, and all of these book covers then go to the book or the audio book when they click on it. So that's been a huge hit. It's quite an undertaking to make one, but once you have one made and have a little template, it goes pretty good. And then one other program that I really wanted to share, because this has been so fun the last few years, is our You've Been Booked. And even though, we were home and the kids couldn't read the books, and that was pretty sad for all of us to not be able to share books in that way, we just used Bunsey, and I started bringing together our ebooks. And even though we're, face to face now with our kids and back at school, we're continuing these because our kids got so used to being able to find those books that were maybe around a certain topic or even per month. And so I really love that, because I think it's gotten them reading, and just I have seen our resources that are online just go up so much too. Well, one of my favorite questions of this whole time together is name some books that you can't keep on the shelf. And so why don't you guys first talk about these books a little bit, and I'll share some too.
So I created some Bunsey boards all throughout this quarantine and the year to show our students what I'm reading and how I've rated them. And then if we have those books in the library, then they would link directly to our Destiny Discover, right? The book in the library, and the students could put it on hold. So just during the initial days of quarantine, I think reading just saved me, right? And so I read so many great books. On that list, you'll see there, I actually ended up using Gordon Corman's The Unteachables as a book club selection later this year. My Jasper June, I just absolutely loved. And One Last Shot by John David Anderson, absolutely loved that one. I mean, every book on there was phenomenal. I love all of those authors, some of my favorites on there. And then I did another Bunsey board for my summer reads. And so I read a few more books over the summer. Couldn't complain about one of them, to be honest with you. I just loved reading these. I actually listen to a lot of books, and I encourage our students as well. You can download an app from your public library so that you can check out audiobooks for free. And so I included an audiobook on there for our summer reads. Of course, I loved One and Only Bob and Echo Mountain. And then if you move one more slide, I read again, I've been reading all fall. And there have just been some phenomenal books. I loved Chirp by Kate Messner, so important, as well as Fighting Words. Those are just some super important books. And then I moved schools this fall to a school that includes middle school. So I've had to expand some of my reading. And so I've been reading some Elizabeth Acevedo, and I've just loved those books. And so anytime you can click on my Bunsy board and get my recommendations, and they'll link our students to our library. I just, if I don't have a book reading happening in my life, I'm just gonna, not make it. There's been some great books released this year.
Oh, this is awesome. See, I can't wait to like go back now and look at there are some new ones on here for me. And so I'll just be asking you for book recommendations. Now, I know that Mark, and I know that Kat and myself have, but let's start with Mark. He's got some good recommendations today.
So I'm going to go rogue. I'm not in a library, and so I don't have the opportunity to get as close to the books as you folks do. So I'm watching on television, and I want to highlight two of my favorite holiday specials. So I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to the Rankin Bass, slightly politically incorrect holiday specials of the 1960s and early 1970s. But there are two that really stand out and I love particularly well because they're connected to children's books that I had in my library when I was an elementary librarian. The first one is The Snowman by Raymond Briggs. And it always was a vexing book because I wanted to do something with it as a read aloud, but there are no words in it. And so the animated special that BBC put out somewhere in the 80s is just lovely. There's not a single word spoken, and it's just wonderful illustrations, and it's just a great story. And then recently I discovered The Snowy Day, which is based on a book by Ezra Jack Keats. It also is out of the 1960s. And it was one of the first books that had an African-American protagonist, and it won the Caldecott Award. And they recently, in the last couple of years, came out with a really lovely animated special that just it brings it into the current times, and it's just really simple. Boys to Men have the theme song, and it's just a joy. So if you want to have a connection to children's literature and some really cool animation, those are the two I would recommend.
And how about you, Kat?
Well, some of my favorites that I've shared just recently would be, Jan Brett. She brings a lot of really great winter stories to our students. And here in California, it's really wonderful to share her illustrations, be able to introduce those to some of our students. Of course, so Gingerbread Friends is one of my favorites after Gingerbread Babies. And also Patricia Polacco writes wonderful stories, and we're working a lot on personal narratives lately. So the Orange for Frankie is one that I've been sharing with our 5th grade as they're branching into writing those personal narratives. And her stories are always so touching and just warm your heart.
She's one of my favorites. I know. And I love the ones that you mentioned, Mark, because like A Snowy Day, like that has been one of my favorites like since I was little. And I love that. I love that too. And I really love picture books. And so the ones that you both mentioned are definitely some of my favorites. And I just appreciate Karen's recommendations so much. So here's one of my all-time favorites of 2020. Fred Gets Dressed, the new one by Peter Brown. Very cute. I think this comes out in April. This is just an arc, and it's really, really sweet. It's very sweet. He's happy at the end, and his family is too. It's so sweet. May Saves the Day from Capstone is awesome. One of my other favorite books. I actually just interviewed the author and illustrator, and this one is absolutely wonderful. Just a lot of diverse characters, and it ties into like wordplay. And then one more, You Should See Me in a Crown. I absolutely loved this one. Karen, have you read this one?
No, it's on my list.
You'll love it. What about Dragon Hoops? Have you read this?
No, I haven't, and it's also in my book stack.
I'm so excited about this graphic novel. So that is on my definite book list. So I'm going to be busy. I can't even wait to start reading over break. So I'm really excited about that. Okay, the next question is, what does collaboration look like this year?
Well, as we talk about collaboration, and we're talking about collaborative leadership through Future Ready Teacher Librarians, just really excited to be able to not only be a Canvas trainer of trainers at my site and with several sites, but also have the opportunity to help lead teachers into sharing technology. So with another colleague, we co-designed and facilitated a workshop style professional development, which is going to cycle throughout the entire year, where teachers are paid to lead and to present, and teachers are also paid to attend. So our district is using the CARE Act's funding in a way to really organically support teachers with Choice PD. And so this will happen 2 more cycles through the year on a weekly or 3-day-a-week basis. And I've had over 20 teachers volunteer to present some technology in the ways of either Canvas or Zoom tips, or SEL and building relationships, or digital pedagogy. And we just started this last Saturday, coffee break Saturdays, and where they're kind of an unconference style, where teachers, administrators, or counselors come, and we set them into different breakout rooms according to topics. So it's the collaboration and innovation, connecting other teachers, K-12 across the district has incredibly blossomed.
That's amazing. Yeah, when you were telling Karen and I about that, I went back to school actually and shared that with my administrators. I think it's just amazing what you're doing. And so that's really, really powerful and great collaboration. And for me, like when I think about collaboration, like I collaborate a lot with our teachers. And again, when we were told, you know, in March that we weren't coming back to school, I feel like we did a good job of really not missing a beat. And I know for me, and I'm sure you guys feel like this too, like I have never collaborated so much in my life, you know, because I think now everybody needs each other so much. And so putting together things, you know, like a choice board, if it's around a month, or right now we have 12 days of making around capstone ebooks that, by the way, are free for everyone to use. And these are available till the middle of January. And the teachers are so grateful for this, because our teachers right now, because we're face-to-face, the kids come to school and they stay, you know, in the classroom all day long. And so our kids, they are with their teachers, and our teachers, even just needing that break or someone to come in and do something really meaningful and fun with the kids, that collaboration, even though a lot of it looks the same, it looks like deeper and even more meaningful because of the way that they need us. And so I think that's one of the most exciting things about this year has been that the collaboration, those hooks that we have, I think it's going to stick and really help us in the future too, as we work with our teachers and our kids and our families too. So it looks different to them as well. How about for you, Karen?
I agree. I think for this year, one of the great things about 2020 is that I really feel like it helped our families and our staff to see how invaluable we can be as librarians. Our teachers did not have time to filter out all the information being thrown at them back at the beginning of the quarantine, right? So many amazing publishers and ed tech tools suddenly opened themselves up to everyone and said, here we are, use us. And our teachers did not have the time, as they were suddenly learning how to teach virtually, to weed through all of those and find out how to use them. And so one of the best ways I could collaborate with our teachers was to filter through that, to learn how to use tools, to show them how to integrate them into their classroom and with their students. And so that was just a massive part of the spring for me. That's really morphed into now weekly tech tips, and more technology usage that I can really help filter through and then train our teachers on. And the thing is now that I'm back in a school that's hybrid, they have 3 hours with the students a day, and that's it. So I'm certainly not going to be adding to their day, right? They can't afford a minute out of their schedule. But what I can help them do is to maximize their schedule. I can help them make their life and their teaching and their technology more useful, more personal, and more effective in what they're doing. And then creating, just like you said, Shannon, creating choice boards, giving them things that students can do at home and at class and in class, making sure that our students have equitable access to things. So for instance, making that choice board with Capstone and making sure that all of those books are available, right? We need to make sure that when our kids are at home, they have just as much access as when they're here on campus. And so that's been a big part of my collaborative process.
Well, and I think like when we say that too, like one thing that's so exciting, when I was coming home from school just now, I had one of our parents text me and needed help because they're one of our families that are learning remotely. And that collaboration that we're doing even with our families has been so rewarding. And I think it's something too that's going to make a huge difference in the future for us. And so that has been something that has been really eye-opening to me as well. And Mark, you have something great that you've been working on too.
Well, it's great to hear Karen and Kat talk about this idea of kind of digital leadership of librarians. And this is, I'm technically our soft launch is tomorrow, and then we'll be formally launching in January. But I've been working with librarians here in Washington State. And this is really a cool story of collaboration kind of beyond the school and beyond our districts. Hillary Marshall, who is our outgoing chair of our school library division here in Washington State, pulled together with me a group of librarians across the state, and we've curated a professional development tool for classroom teachers in Washington State, and we're calling it the Digital Teach Kit. And we've identified 22 tools that are used widely already in Washington State. And we've created guides essentially to help teachers find the best PD resources and supports so that they can understand how to use those tools. And it's been really great. It's like I say, it's launching tomorrow. That URL actually will work. I just checked with my colleague to make sure it was okay to share this. So you're the first to hear about this. And it's going to be a work in progress. I think it's a first draft that will make it happen. But I think the cool thing about this is these librarians collaborated with one another, which we're good at doing already. But I think the thing that made it different is this idea of kind of pivoting curation from something that you do in your own school with your own colleagues to something that you're curating for the state as a whole. And I think that has been a unique challenge for all of us as we try to figure out, what's our audience? What is the tool going to look like? But it's just been a fantastic exercise of my colleague Tracy Chun coined the term brave before perfect. All of us embrace that adage, and we've put together something that I'm really proud of. It's really cool. So I would encourage you to take a look at it and give us some feedback.
Yeah, I can't even wait, and congratulations. So tomorrow's the day?
That's the soft launch is tomorrow, yes.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, that's going to be great. So thank you for sharing that. Now we look at what has happened, which has changed school for the better. And I think this is going to be interesting to hear a little bit around this too. So Karen, go ahead.
Sure. I mean, this year was full of hard things, and our students were not insulated from any of them. They really weren't. And so a lot of those world events and events in our country caused us to really reflect on our library and on the way that we're serving our students. Right, there's been a big eye-opening movement to make sure that our collections and our libraries are diverse, that we're serving our students, and that they have the opportunity to see diverse populations within our collections. And so I love that that has risen to the surface this year. I love that in the midst of hard things, we're taking hard looks at our collections and making massive improvements. I love that 2020 forced us to focus also not just on our students, but on our families, right? I was making videos, individual videos to help grandmas get their kids logged in to Zoom or to Google Meet, right? We needed to help our families. And I love that our school communities came together, that we fed our children every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Since quarantine started all through the summer, we're feeding them lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I mean, right, I love those kinds of things. I love that we've had to have discussions about equity and technology use and availability. So even though, right, this year was full of so much difficulty, and really showed us some areas where we're lacking in, that's okay, because that's where the growth comes from. And so I just feel like this year was full of opportunities for growth. And I love, Mark, that you created something that goes through your whole state. I think that's one of the great things of this year, is the collaboration between educators and between librarians. We don't need to learn things just for ourselves, right? We need to share them with each other. And that's been such a positive message of 2020.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And I think that when we, think about all of those things, that even though it was hard, like when we come down to it, the thing that really makes us, human, and the relationship piece that we have. And my superintendent, Darren Derflinger, he wrote an article in April, and I think that the last line, it really says it all. Hopefully we're finding ways to educate students in a way that fosters quality relationships during this challenging time we're facing. It will lead to improvements needed in our educational system for years to come. And I think about that relationship piece, and talking about how our communities came together and how we did things for our families and for our teachers. And it's going to be nice to have a little break for the holiday, I think, for everyone, and go into a new year. But it will also be exciting to see what good changes that this brings us as well. How about you, Kat or Mark? Do you have anything to add to that?
I do want to say, being on the front line of technology troubleshooting, like right at the door, those first few weeks of school, reminds me of what you said, Karen, about helping and supporting our families along the way. We used Class Dojo also, so that they could send instant messages to us when things were needed, and could pick up the phone and support them with either technology or curbside pickup, which has been wonderful. Another way that the support has grown with us across the district would also be across our departments, where our IT department and our marketing and media services really working well together. And that's grown and been something that I'm looking forward to moving forward in 2021.
And the only thing I would add is, I guess, this notion of choice is that when all the schools shifted into crisis teaching, and it wasn't remote teaching or remote learning, it was crisis teaching for most of last spring, there was really no choice in the matter. It happened. However, it has kind of given both parents and families and students this idea that there are choices in how education happens. This may not be as much of a relevance at the elementary level, because I think having real-time, face-to-face contact with students and teachers is really critical at that age. But there are a lot of students that are thriving with remote learning, and I think that it's going to be very hard to put that genie back in the bottle, and that schools and systems are going to have to come up with more quality choices for students and families that want to learn in different ways than the one-size-fits-all model. So I think that that's an opportunity in the future that I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, I'm excited about that too. And it's going to be really interesting to see, what the rest of the year looks like. Like, Kat, you already know that you're out until the end of March. Is that right? You're not going back with kids face to face, if then, and as we go back, into a holiday and come back to school, even in Iowa, like, I'm just really looking forward to, what's going to happen and how it's going to look. But lots of great things, I think, to come too. And when we get to that question, what are we looking forward to in 2021?
Yes, so we sure are looking forward to getting back to some sort of face-to-face just as Karen had said, our district is hoping for a virtual hybrid. And what I'm really interested, Shannon, were some of the slides that you had and the way in which you were building that coming back to face-to-face learning at the library and what that looks like. So I'm interested to learn more about that.
Yeah, and I think, as we're thinking about today's presentation, and I look at this picture often, it's the one on our Facebook, of course, from last year, and I am anxious, for this. And even though our kids are doing so good with their masks and being socially distanced, and really when you see pictures of what's happening in our building, it looks, pretty normal, except for the mask and a few precautions that we have around the school. But really looking forward to just that collaboration that we have within our school. That's what I really miss, is the things that our kids can do together, and being, part of a building that is preschool to 12th grade. And one of the great things about our community is our parents being in our school and others, and that collaboration going on. And so those are the things that I'm really, really looking forward to. Do you have anything to add to that, Karen?
Well, I know here in California, that we're an anomaly, that we're back in hybrid. Most schools are not in session in person. And just seeing our students' faces, even if they're masked every day, is such a gift. And our kids are just thriving back in face-to-face learning. And yet I also agree with Mark. There are some students, I have a high schooler at home who's thriving in distance learning. So I really am looking forward to what 2021 brings in terms of educators really honing in on what's worked well and what's been a struggle. I hope we can support our educators better. I know that there are teachers who are teaching face-to-face, virtually, hybrid, all at the same time, and we need to find ways to support those educators. Yeah. But mostly, I am just looking forward to a year where we are even more in tune to our students' needs and their families' needs, and making sure that we have ways to support them.
Yeah,
and I would riff on that, Karen. I agree. I think that educators have a challenge and an opportunity, or a opportunity, to look at lessons learned from what's taken place over the last several months and try to find ways to do school better. I really think there's a golden opportunity for us to make those changes. And on the last virtual summit for Future Ready Librarians, it was great to hear Bill Bass and other school leaders, basically saying we shame on us if we don't make changes to what school needs to be for students. The other thing, I guess, and this is not a political statement, is that I'm looking forward to this idea of civility returning to our conversations. I think that that's going to take a long time for that to kind of get out of our system. But it's been really hard, with the pandemic to deal with the incivility and the difficulty of connecting with our community and bridging those differences of opinions. And so I guess I'm really hopeful that that's part of that back to school, and maybe some back to civility at the same time.
Yeah, and on that, we think about how we really stay connected with everyone. I think that's been a huge plus too on what we can add and bring to the table as teacher librarians. So Kat, you want to share what you've been doing?
Here we talked about connecting resources, and as we stated, our schools are closed, but are open on certain times for students to check out books. We also like to promote our Long Beach public libraries and our partnerships with our libraries. And just as Karen was mentioning, when we take a really close look at our collection, our public libraries are great partners in helping us to curate resources and get resources of those into our students' hands. So getting that information out either via Twitter or Class Dojo to share with our families has been wonderful.
One thing that we're doing this week is I made up these little bingo cards, and something as simple as this, like this year, usually around Christmas, I give the teachers something little, like I gather together all the books maybe that I've gotten for free or something that's just, really nice to do. And this year I wanted to do it all around like self-care. And so creating something like this, and you guys don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can make a copy of this too, and making it into just a little bookmark and making sure that, we're just sharing things with them, not only things maybe where they can connect or do something that, is nice for them and their families during the holidays, but also just something that makes us feel, good as well. It's just so nice. Karen, do you have anything to add to that?
Right. I just think that, part of collaboration is that as librarians, we have to become good friends with our webmasters and make sure that our library information is plastered everywhere it can possibly be, that we've got to put our resources in front of our families and our students. So be friends with your webmaster, be collaborative with your teachers, and make sure that the word is out so that our families and our students know that we're here to serve them.
That's right. I know. I think that's great parting words right there. And so when we think about, the just kind of wrapping up this amazing conversation, what are some parting words as we get ready for 2021?
Well, I put that slide up there because I just want to remind us that we do need hopeful stories, and it's our privilege to tell them to our students and to our families, right? I have hope, like Mark, that 2021 is going to look different, that we're going to be kinder, that we're going to discuss things better, that the world is going to get better next year. And so part of my way of sharing that with our students and families is with hopeful stories. And I'm hoping they come true next year. I am.
Well, and one thing that I keep saying that, this is our time really to shine, and we have so many great things that we can bring to the table as librarians and as teachers. And I think that it's definitely not the time to sit back. It is a time to, ask for a seat at the table or make a seat at the table and just get busy and help with whatever you can. And I know that this year I've helped with so many things that I never thought would be within like my, reign of my job. And it's been so rewarding. And just be helpful, be kind, and be there for our kids and for our schools. I think that's one of the most important things because we can shine in so many different ways.
Shannon, I want to add just one little thing. Having done a course with some librarians in the Dakotas and Wyoming, is presume positive intentions. It's hard with the chaos that's going on that we presume that the school board or the district or the principal or our colleagues are not paying attention or whatever. They're slammed just like we are. So try to remember that you just have to be patient and presume positive intentions. That's really a critical piece.
Great advice. How about you, Kat?
It is great advice. Being those resources for those around us and connecting others to those resources, that's what the heart of what we do and what we love. So that part is about our time. So
yeah. Oh, thank you guys. It's been so great just to sit and have a conversation with all of you. And I think as we, reflect and get ready to spend some time with our families and take some time off of school for a few weeks, I think it's a great time too to think about how we can just get ready for 2021. And I'm excited to share just a few things with you. And we've had a really busy year around Future Ready Librarians. And when you go to the website, you can find lots of information that has been up, and it's great because we have our framework and things that you can print off, but there's a lot of new things too. One of them is our podcast series, and this is something that we kicked off in the fall, and we have 10 so far. And I'm not going to click on the slide, but you guys will share this resource with you. And it's great because you can, find it wherever you listen to your podcast and pick it up. But it's great. I had conversations with Mark and with Britton Follett and Nikki Robinson and so many great people around topics that are very important and timely. And so I would encourage you to take some time to listen to these. And in January, we kick off our second season. And so we'll be sharing that as well. In the beginning, I also shared the 25 days of digital tools and ideas. And this has been just so fun, like I said, to go back and learn. And at the time, I didn't really have a lot of time to dig into this. And it's been just so great, though, to read about things, like Collections by Destiny. Today, it's Wakelet with Joyce Valenza. This was so great. I learned more about Adobe Spark. So, go there. And even if it's not right now, because you might still be in school, over the holidays, that's going to be one of my goals. We also have a great self-reflection tool that you can find at this link, but also on the site, and the conversation starter. And this walks you through just these 7 steps. And this has been really helpful for me. And also, as I just work with, it's, never been more important than to have those great conversations with our leaders and others within our schools. And so you'll have to check that out too. We also started the challenge series, and this is something that we're going to pick back up again in January, right, Mark?
Yep.
Yes. And so we'll be sharing more about this too at that link. And Mark and I shared this during our last summit, and I thought it was important to share this again. This is something that the Alliance has put together, and these are images that all of us can use. And they have just recently put some in also about what school looks like this year. And these are really just inspirational to look at, but from preschool to 12th grade students and teachers, and you can find them at this link, but in all kinds of different categories that, again, are free for everyone to use. Another thing that Future Ready has put together is this planning guide for high quality remote learning. And this has been something that we've used at Band Meter 2 and just for my own practice. And when you go here, you can go to any one of the different wedges and find the common challenges that we have during remote learning, but then ideas to consider. And so it's been really helpful to be able to go there and use that as a resource. Now, looking ahead to 2021, we have Digital Learning Day coming up in February. And right now, they also have monthly challenges. You can click here and go to some of these and even find the video contest too that they have recently kicked off. And just to leave with, I always have to wrap up our great group, of Future Ready Librarians on the Facebook page. And this has been something that I'm so thankful for every day, because I can find resources, I can ask questions, I can share. And it's just been so great to see, not only how people have come together, but just the friendships that are there in this group too. So if you don't belong to this, please join it, because we would love to have you. And we're going to have a lot of new things coming out in 2021. Kicking off with a webinar in January, February, and March. And Mark and I will have more info to share too on 2 upcoming summits that we're going to have. And so we can't wait, and more details coming soon. But again, please be part of the conversation in Future Ready Libs and on Future Ready. And we're so thankful that you ended your year with us. And I'm really thankful that my friends joined me today in this conversation. This has been just so great. So thank you guys for coming today and for sharing all the great things and just for everything that you're doing to inspire others.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for inviting.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been really wonderful.
I agree. Thanks to everyone. I love learning along with all these other Future Ready librarians.
Yeah, thank you. And have a great holiday and take some time for you. I think that's what we all have to remember this time of year. So have a good holiday, and we'll see you in 2021.